Today's a really exciting day, and that's because a gameplay trailer just dropped for a brand new up-and-coming modern-day city builder that I think could rival City Skylines 2 in terms of scale and beauty. State Metropolis. Now, if you haven't heard of the City-State series, it's a series of city builders that's been around since 2018, and this is actually the third entry into the series. Now, one of the reasons I'm so excited about this game is that the developer released a post-mortem of his previous games and also took a look at SimCity and City Skylines to try to figure out exactly what the community wanted in a city builder. And I think he gets it. The community wants a game with a good simulation, but also wants strong design elements. And it seems like that's what he's trying to bring in State Metropolis. Now, before we dive into this trailer, I just want to let you know that I don't know the developer. I've never played this game. I'm just reacting to the trailer that you have access to as well. So with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the trailer. The trailer begins by giving us a look at the road tools. And the first thing that immediately jumps out to me is how these tools work. They're going to be drawing a curved road, and all of these different points appear. Now, I think that what these are is snapping points so that you can be incredibly precise, and maybe so that things are really easy to replicate. So that could make reproducing someone's work really easy, or even mirroring your work from block to block fairly easy because you're just counting the number of points right here. We're seeing the way that this tool works, and it kind of reminds me a bit like a version of Road Builder. I want to say that this maybe is directionality. This might be road coloring. These are the snapping toggles, and then here are the elevation controls. Right here, I think that this might be the speed limit. And then right here is the overall road width. I guess this could be road width controls as well. Right here, we're seeing the number of lanes that you're selecting. So this is a bi-directional 2-lane road. I guess right here would be the ability to select single directions. So I'm not 100% sure what this is. And then we can add lanes right here as well. And then right here, we see something that is actually pretty exciting. Attached versus detached sidewalks. This is something that you can't really do all that well in City Skylines, but it really makes a place feel a certain way. I'm not 100% sure what this option right here is. It looks like maybe some sort of a stripe on the side of the road. And then right here, it looks like foliage, bus lanes, bike lanes, and parking, the ability to toggle all of those on and off. It also looks like pedestrian facilities might be toggleable. I'll be really interested in knowing if we can create a road that looks like this without sidewalks if we want to. The other thing that we can see here is a little bit about the landscape itself. Look at how detailed this is. These trees are close to one another. This is dense foliage. There's a lot of it. There's a wide variety of trees. I see multiple different kinds of palm trees. I see grass sprites right here. I see little bushes and flowers. The sand texture looks outstanding. There's a lot of variety. It's not just one constant texture. And then as you get to the water, I just want to point this out. The water is moving and rippling. It just makes it look so much more real. And the color changes as it gets deeper. It just all looks so good. Now on the UI front, I'm not 100% sold on the Art Deco UI. I think it's very attractive, but I think that some of these buttons are a little bit confusing to know what they are. Down here, it's pretty obvious. This is an options button, the speed controls. I think this is demand meters. Only seeing, I'm guessing, residential, commercial, industrial. Population down here. I'm guessing that this is the city name. And then we add this little meter, and I want you to keep an eye on this because it says some interesting stuff like city's land value now primarily measured in sentimental value. That's pretty funny. And then down here, road controls. I have no idea what some of these are just by looking at them. I'm guessing governmental facilities, utilities, but it's not incredibly apparent to me. And I think that's because of the styling. So I'll be curious to know if that ends up sticking around. Now in this next shot, things start to get really interesting because we get our first look at the zoning tools. What we see right here is a single family home placing individual parcels, postmodern design, low-cost architecture. 1-story maximum height, 25% lot coverage for the building itself, which we're going to see as he places down these individual lots, about 25%, maybe less than 25% lot coverage. This part's a little bit curious to me. So it says 50% coverage for parking. That's clearly not 50% coverage for parking, but then we also see a lot depth and width. I don't know if this is units or what this measurement is. but it appears that this is an 8x2 lot. This means that we are going to have a degree of control over lots that we've never seen in a city builder before. And this is only half. So imagine being able to go 16 units back and being able to go 16 units wide. You're going to be able to really create that urban transect model and have gradients of density like you'd expect to see in a real city. But is even more impressive to me as we go through here. Look at these parcels conforming to the curvature in the road. It's the Manor Lord zoning system, but in a modern city builder. This is what I always wanted to see in City Skylines 2. This is what was missing. This is why people plot buildings. This is what a modern city builder should have for its zoning system. I don't know how to express how excited I am to see this because this is just next level. But there's even more going on under the hood. You see that we have this design, landscaping, parking availability, upkeep, land price, construction costs. I think there's a lot of stuff going on here. So I think that the design is about the design of the lot itself. So I guess it's good for a single family home. Plenty of landscaping because they've placed landscaping within these. Parking availability, I think, corresponds to parking on the parcel versus the road, or the combination of the two. For upkeep, that must be the amount of green space, land price based on the location and the construction costs. I mean, can you ask for more? And it's varying by lot. As different lots are plopped, we're seeing that these values are all different. And my guess is that means that every single parcel is going to have its own unique tax collection and own unique value. The other thing I'm noticing here is that we've got all of these control points. And I'm guessing that this corresponds to this option right here. To me, this looks like a free parcel mode, kind of like in Manor Lords, how you can make a completely custom parcel, grab the point and make your own parcel, adjust the parcels based on the points. Right here, it looks like it's a line tool, so you could start here, drag it all the way down here, and based on your settings that you've identified right here, you are able to pull it all the way out. My guess is this is density, so it's just one residential tool. So we have residential right here. You can go single family, medium density, high density. Set a height limit, whatever the height limits are for each of those densities. And my big curiosity is going to be, is it up to that level or will they all be that level? I'm hoping it's up to that level. And depending on these different values right here, it's going to determine whether or not it's economically viable to actually increase the density. There's just a lot to take in right there. And then the other thing I'm noticing is that we do have 4 different categories right here. So I'm guessing that's residential, commercial, office, and industrial. So that whole suite of zoning categories that you'd expect to see in a game like this. And I just got to say it. What we're seeing right here is really special. So you're seeing a variety of single family homes. They're not all the same design. This is a square. This one looks like one of those T pieces in Tetris, another square. That means that we're going to have a variety of building designs here. And I love that we're seeing different plot layouts. So this is kind of what you would expect to see in a plat map for a specific parcel. So you would actually see where the home would lay on the map. Now we're taking a look at some medium density parcels and some more unique designs and configurations. But what I think is really the most interesting here is what's happening at the street level. So here you can see that we've got a 2-lane road, attached sidewalks, fairly narrow. This right here is also a 2-lane road. We've also got parking and we've got detached sidewalks. Now the sidewalks are joining in kind of a wonky way. I'm hoping that that gets improved in the future, but this is already a great spot to be in. And one thing I love about this is it means that you can reserve right of way, because I could easily take those parking lanes, turn them into drive lanes and not have parking on this road. And now I have an arterial, not a collector. So this is, I mean, that's next level. That's what I've always wanted in a game. Now for these parcels that he's zoning, check this out. So it looks like we have about a little under 50% lot coverage for the building. I'd say that this looks more like a third to me. Definitely the parking coverage seems about 50%. Then there's also this brown. I want to say that that must be sidewalks. So a sidewalk heading out the back, connecting up to the parking lots, connecting up to the sidewalk itself. Now, very interesting here is it seems like even though this particular configuration shouldn't have worked everywhere, it still allowed it to happen. It dynamically adjusted on the fly. And look at these. Every single building has a different shape. And the parking is just spawning around it in a way that meets the requirements outlined here in the zoning tool. I love that because I'll tell you what, I don't love making parking lots in city builders. I kind of want them just to appear based on the parking requirements that we've set forth. There are a couple of weird things here. It looks like there's no way to access this parking lot. Looks like there's like a couple parking spots right here. So I'm wondering, I mean, obviously this is pre-early access. I mean, this is as early as it gets. So it's really, I think I can forgive stuff like that. And now we get to see this area come to life. And a couple of things immediately jump out to me. You can see that we've got a level building pad right here. So the building's not going to be jank. The area around it is. That is the way it should be. You can mess with soil. You shouldn't have a building that gets super wonky. And then as we go through this, look at this. Beautiful building animations. We got cranes, but it makes sense. These are big buildings. And assuming that we're looking at the thing that was just zoned in, we're seeing that this is an up to height because these are some lower density buildings. And what that means to me is it kind of going back to some of these different criteria for the land. We see that the land price is low. That's going to facilitate some lower density buildings. I'm wondering, the land value is higher over here. As a result, we get some higher density buildings. That's the way that urban economics works. That's if the land value is high, to make development work, you have to have bigger buildings to make it pencil out. That's really, really good. The buildings have a lot of weathering, and that's interesting. I wonder if buildings are going to weather dynamically or not. I suppose if they're not going to weather dynamically, I would rather them be weathered up front and maybe have that weathering correspond to, the value of the building. We're going to have to see if that's the way it is. Now, looking at the buildings themselves, we've seen a lot of postmodern architecture up until now. Now we're seeing a bit of variety, and it all just looks really good. You have to remember, this is all procedurally generated. So to see this and to see it look this good, it's just, that's pretty impressive. I wouldn't have expected it to look this clean. I'm also seeing a lot of propping on the roofs, and they look really, really solid. Maybe it's not 100% perfect, but I've talked to asset creators who've talked about how frustrating it can be or time consuming it can be to do all of the rooftop propping. But in a game like this, if you don't have the roofs on the top and you're looking at it top down most of the time, it's going to look really weird if you don't have that. Now, that said, this building doesn't have any. So, we'll have to see how that all works out. And I am going to be very curious to know if it's always procedural or not. And that goes for the propping and the buildings themselves. So if we want to make a unique building, are we able to create a unique building and plop that in the game? Same thing with the propping. Is that something that's going to be always procedural, or could that be placed manually? And knowing that this is procedural, I'm wondering if these building styles, we select the modernist style or the postmodern style, if it's just a skin and it takes that skin and applies it, or if that skin has, window styles, paint colors, material colors, and it all just comes together to create something like this. I have no idea. I'm not an asset creator, but that's what this makes me think of. And it looks so clean. I wouldn't be able to tell that this is procedurally generated. This looks like an asset that someone made by hand. And it is very, very attractive. Very, very attractive. All of these are. Now, the other thing I'm noticing is that shadows aren't flickering as we're moving the camera around. Things are very crisp, and a little bit of not praise. I've been praising a lot of things. I will say that the windows, they look better in cities too. The internals, these are good. These are fine. There's good reflections. And considering there's so much procedural stuff going on, seeing those reflections is really impressive. I would say that being able to model the inside, which is kind of what you see in cities too, is pretty special. So that is one place where I'll say cities might have one on it there. Now this might be the killer feature of this game. So what we're looking at here is another mid-rise parcel, but they want to create some sort of a complex. So they're going to add additional buildings on this same parcel and connect them with pedestrian walkways. Now I'll tell you, in my professional career, one of my jobs was a transportation planner. I worked on a transportation demand management plan. And one of the things that I tried to do was get businesses to share parking. So being able to do something like this and share parking between multiple buildings, that is very realistic. That will make very cohesive feeling lots. I'm going to be very curious to know if we could also mix zoning in this. It seems like maybe we could. so that during the day, the office towers use the parking, and at night, the residents come back. They can park in here as everyone's leaving their office building. But being able to do this, adjust the size of the building, adjust the size of the parking, adjust the size of the pedestrian ways, say where you want landscaping to spawn in, do it all in a plan mode, and then have that build in and have a cohesive architecture style. It's next level. And it looks really, really good. The landscaping looks good. It's probably a little bit too close to the buildings, a little bit too mature. I'm hoping in the future, maybe you have the option to watch your landscaping mature and grow, not die. Don't like dying. I want it to get bigger and look better over time, and really be able to narrow this down. And that's one thing I have not seen, is the ability to dial that in. But I'm diving in the weeds at this point because the tool itself is incredibly impressive. Now, a couple of things that I am noticing here. It's handling, flattening really well. Parking lot's flat, not janky, but there's no retaining wall right here. So now it looks like the road is floating. So obviously that's probably something that'll be worked on down the line. Also, no curb cut here. I know I'm diving in the weeds again. No one expects that, Phil, but you know, when it looks this good, those are the small things that I'm kind of like looking for. And then we've got some props that are showing on the sidewalk. But again, that might be a choice. That does happen in the real world. Don't love when a utility pedestal is in the middle of a sidewalk, but it definitely happens. Now, this shot has a lot of interesting stuff going on. So we have some wall-to-wall buildings, and you can see a couple right here. They are on what appears to be separate parcels, but they have a unique architecture style that blends together. Maybe this is one parcel. Can't really tell. But they look pretty good side by side. There is a gap, but it doesn't appear to impact the way it looks at street level. And even this building that's set a little ways back with parking has the same architectural style. So that's interesting to me. But right here, what we're seeing is that they're creating a custom building that is going to have a courtyard in the center, parking all the way around it. Now they're modifying this on the fly. It was supposed to have parking that looped back around here in a pedestrian facility right here. They've modified it to create a circular building or a rectangular building with that courtyard in the center. And then as the building spawns in, we get unique centerpieces that are taller. Not 100% sure why. It must again be because it's a maximum of 12 stories, not that every building will be 12 stories. And then we get these lower wings over here. Now, there is some weird stuff happening here with the parapets. Obviously, that's a little bit of clipping. Not all that much worse than you'd expect to see if you were manually plopping buildings by hand, though. So to be able to spawn this in, have a unique architectural style right here, and a coherent color scheme, that to me is pretty darn impressive. I also love all the propping that's occurring right here, though I do wonder if we are going to be able to modify those, because you can see that there's like some sort of a planter and a bench right here. And I have a sneaking suspicion that some of this has been planted, because we're taking a look at a landscaping menu right here, and we've got 2 palm trees. So it's confirmed that there's at least half as many as are in City Skylines too. Damn! And we've got some other landscaping options as well. All looks very, very good. Now, first of all, I got to point this out. Education levels so low, prompting is considered an advanced skill. That's hilarious. That is a bit of whimsy in a city builder that I have really, really missed. I feel like SimCity really nailed that. Skylines kind of gets it sometimes, but it's not quite there. That to me is a level of charm that I really like in simulation games in general. So happy to see that in here. But right here, what we're looking at, I believe, is an office or a commercial district. These are interesting parcels, up to 4 stories tall, medium density. I'm guessing that this is commercial based on that. These are large lots though. This is 8 units deep, 12 wide. And you get this, wider building, postmodern design, low cost. And as a result, we end up with this fairly modern, maybe 1970s looking shell building that seems to have some sort of commercial. Maybe it's like an ice cream shop. It looks outstanding. There's some cafe seating right here. I don't know if that was generated. I don't see that on the plot plan right here. So maybe they removed some of that to create this little pedestrian area, this little cafe area. And down here, we're seeing a custom company. It says Plastic Beauty, which is pretty funny. Plastic Beauty. So I'm wondering if we have companies kind of like in City Skylines too. And then I've just got to point out all of the different variety of textures. Once again, the roof textures right here, they feel weathered and old and good and complex and not clean and lived in. I'm seeing more variety in the vehicles here too. I was kind of wondering about that in some of the previous shots. It seemed like all the vehicles were white and silver and black. Now we're seeing more designs, more colors. Where it starts to fall apart is some of the jank right here, and it seems like it's all road jank. So whereas the jank in Cities 2 is in the buildings and the parking lots, it seems like the jank in this game is in the roads. I think I would honestly prefer the jank being in the roads than the lots themselves. Now, would you check this out? Look at the citizens. Look at the vehicles. Look at the road. Look at everything. You know, these aren't the most detailed people in the world, but they are very realistic looking. They're good enough that at a passing glance, they just look very real. The only thing that doesn't look great here, in my opinion, are the trees. They look a little bit PS3, but the road textures look great. The vehicles are outstanding. This looks Grand Theft Auto. Like it's kind of next level. And then the way it all comes together just feels good. Now this next shot, my gosh, this is next level. So many things happening here. We get to see the way that the terrain is being rendered in the golden hour or just before the golden hour, and it looks outstanding. There's a bit of fog back here, gives you a sense of depth, and just the general art direction and style in this game is really, really something special. We've got some really challenging terrain here. It's doing just fine with retaining walls. Got a lot of traffic right here. The landscaping looks outstanding. The buildings look amazing. We're at street level and things look this good. This could pass for an open world game. It's that good. It's that good. And now we get to this. So these are all unique procedurally generated high-rise buildings, and they all look great. I would challenge you to find one that doesn't look good. They all look like custom assets to me, and they all look completely different. These two are maybe the most related. You can kind of see that the balconies have some similarities, but the buildings seem like they have unique architecture. I can't even fathom how this is put together. One thing I really respect, though, is that we're seeing different architectural styles from different years, which gives this city a sense of history, and there's just a lot of traffic and activity. Now, speaking of that, now we get street level at all of this traffic and activity. We get to see that backup. Look at all the pedestrian activity. It seems to be handling it just fine. All that texture, it feels like this is not a brand new city. This is not Disney World. This city's been here a while. Now here we are in the golden hour, and it looks outstanding. Now I am curious about one thing. There's a little bit of speckling right here on this vehicle, and I'm wondering if that's a texture of the car or an artifact like you see in City Skylines, but I'm noticing that there's no weird flickering of shadows. And look at that. Even the curbs right here have dirt on them, like people have scuffed against them as they're attempting to park. My goodness. That is just like a level of detail. Wow. 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 Now, right here is where I start to say some things where things are not like all sunshine and rainbows and roses. The road tool kind of worries me a little bit. So here we're going to see them making an interchange. First of all, I think that this squiggly line right here is supposed to be a contour line. Not 100% sure. You kind of see them in a couple of spots. This just looks very City Skylines 1 to me. And I mean that not in a super great way. It just looks very rigid, and like some of the joins aren't great. Like this is like pre-using Node Controller, how the joins would look. It's just not great. It will be easy to make things that are very precise. But again, I think that after using the Cities Skylines 2 tool, this is going to be hard for people to adjust to if it never improves from this state, because I do think it looks a little bit dated already. But nothing looks corrupt. And that is the big drawback of the City Skylines 2 tool. You have so much freedom that you can get lots of corruptions. And after the last update, which I can't even believe it at this point, was in June. The last update to the game was months ago at this point. They removed the ability to add nodes, which really limited the flexibility. And one thing that I'm seeing right here is a lot of flexibility. It seems like you can kind of jump in anywhere. There are nodes all over the place, and that's a good thing because that means that you are going to be able to replicate things and just in general create things that make a lot of sense. I'm also very curious to know if this landscaping procedurally generated or not. It looks really good, and as the landscaping grows into itself, gosh, it looks good. There's grasses, there's bushes, there's trees, there's different colors. This right here is recolor built into the game. If you're a detailer and you want to dive into the details and the nuance on a specific building, create a unique shaped building, and then take a look at every single story, change the style and the color. This game allows it. Going through right here and adjusting the design of the building. There are different styles of the modernist building. And look at that. We're changing the way that the balconies look, the colors. This is a detailer's delight. This is a detailer's delight. No two buildings in your city have to look the same. If they do, it's because you're not taking the time to adjust them. That is just wow. That is just wow. Now we get a look at some of the info views, and I think that this is probably the traffic info view. So my guess is the width is the volume that the road can accommodate, and the color is the level of congestion. We'll have to see how this works. It does seem fairly legible. This view right here, I think, is land values. Now, interestingly, it says economists advise investing in gumballs over real estate. So maybe this whole city has low land values. Now, this one right here, I believe, is pollution. Here we get some close-ups on the streetscape, and it just looks really, really good. These are some interesting looking patios right here. And it really highlights to me how different the design of the buildings can be and how much activity we're going to see at the street level. There's a lot going on here. And even the different surfaces for buildings are different colors, different shapes. There's just a lot. Now here, I think we're looking at a specific individual, and we can see that their education level, it looks like their wealth level, the density of the home that they live in. There's a lot going on. Also different camera views to follow them. We can follow them to their work or their home. This makes me wonder if this is an agent-based game. And what I mean by that is every single individual sim is modeled. Editor Phil here, and I just noticed on the Steam page that it actually says that this is a crowd-based model that can handle populations exceeding 1 million. So I do not believe that this is an agent-based game. It is a statistical simulation, which means that people are representative of a larger number of people. Honestly, I think that's probably the right approach if you want to simulate at the macro scale and not the micro scale. Basically, less detail, more people. It just kind of makes more sense. Anyway, back to the video. Now, there are a couple of things I want to point out here. I saw this on Reddit. There is some clipping. We see vehicles clipping into one another. This is not a fully fleshed out product. So to see things like that, kind of to be expected, not that big of a deal, not in my opinion. And now here we go, and we follow this individual person, and just look at the wear on the roads. Look at the wear on the sidewalks. My goodness, that is awesome. That is a level of detail that is just like, that's next level. So now we're seeing some wall-to-wall buildings in different architectural styles. Now, ooh, this right here appears to be a building that's not quite as well off. You can see it's a little worse for wear. You got people hanging their clothes on a line outside the window, maybe because they don't have a washing machine. In this one, they've got an AC, so it'll be interesting to see that mechanic shake itself out. That would not be surprising, because that is a mechanic in City State 1 and 2, that there are neglected areas in the city or places that have lower wealth. So I'm glad to see that. Now here we're seeing a business, and I read on Reddit that I think this is a Blade Runner reference, which I think is pretty funny. Here we're seeing a single family home, a prairie style architecture. It looks really, really good. The jank is in the sidewalk though, so this is going to be a quick shot. I think that maybe that's part of the reason why, but the house itself looks really, really good. Very, very convincing architecture. Very suburban. It's even got a playground in the back. And my guess is he didn't really need to do all that much to generate this. This next shot, I think, is that same building that we just looked at. And my goodness, there's a lot going on here. So you can see that there are dumpsters and garbage on the ground. We've got a burnt out car right here, an abandoned vehicle with the hubcap sitting next to it. There's some overgrown weeds in these old planter boxes, and some campers back here, and some other garbage just strewn about. This makes me think that they are going to nail the wealth mechanic. And I'm really excited about that, because that's something that is sorely missing in Cities 2. All right, here we got another business, smokestack overflow. It's like a stack overflow error. That's hilarious. That's awesome. And bollards. I know that people like bollards. We got bollards in this game. Bollards confirmed. Right here, a really nice green cities looking building and some great propping on the roof. A lot of nice props on the patios as well. Right here, another business. I'm guessing another Blade Runner reference. Very detailed buildings, lots of great reflections. No jank or oddities with all these procedurally generated buildings. I think the corners are where you would notice it the most. Even in custom assets, sometimes you'll see that there are awkward seams where someone wasn't able to quite line things up, and you're just not seeing those at all with these procedurally generated buildings. Everything looks really cohesive. And then we get to this. My goodness. We've got the ability to generate maps on the fly. That's what all these tools are. Adjust the amount of landscaping, adjust the amount of hills, how jagged they are, adjust the amount of water, set the ocean level, the base height, the range height, the erosion iterations, the type of landscape that you have. Is it an island? Islands confirmed. Oh my goodness, that's going to make Popular Ponderosa lose his mind. We've got oceans. We've got completely inland areas, lakes. We've got bays. There's just a lot going on here. I'm guessing that you adjust things here. It zooms in a little bit. You select your landscape. You can adjust it, see the preview here, hit this button, and then it generates your new landscape. And my God, I don't know what to say besides this is Transport Fever 3 levels of beauty. This is next level. This looks like a postcard. This looks like it could be a picture. This looks real. This is insane. This is impressive. I don't know what to say besides. I'm blown away by the way that it renders landscapes, the depth, the elevation, the terrain, the jaggedness, the foliage. All of it is good. The way it does the lighting, it's all outstanding. The water, and that's what it's demonstrating here. You can feel how shallow the water is and how good of a job it's doing creating these little estuaries, little ponds, how dense the landscaping is, how you can tell that there's elevation in the terrain just by looking at this for just a quick moment, and how delicate some of the rivers can be that come into here. Now right here, we're seeing the water tool. And it says that this is going to create a river that's 544 meters long. Click this button and it creates it. And it just starts flowing down right here. And it looks amazing. And I love that it shows you before you click this button where the river is going to flow so you don't have to make a mistake. That is going to save map makers so much time. And I'm also very curious about what this button is. It seems like maybe this is a button to place government facilities. So maybe you have the ability to create a little starting scene or something like that. And then we get to see this gentle stream running through this map. Looks absolutely gorgeous, bright blue water. Seems like it handles small streams really well. It's also switchbacking this road up this really challenging terrain, and they've managed to make it look really natural. And then we get to this shot, and this looks real. It looks like the sand is encroaching upon the grass right here. The water is crashing into the sand. There's lots of little debris on here. The level of detail in this is next level. The tree looks amazing. The only thing it's missing is me running up and down the shore. That's what I want. This looks absolutely beautiful. And now we get some really funky shots going through the city. This gives me hope that we get a really fancy camera tool in here, but it also just shows how good these buildings look. Even when you're zooming in, even when you're doing crazy things, the buildings all look so good. And that right there is State Metropolis. So again, this is coming out in Q1 of 2026, but I just got you super hyped. I'm super hyped. I feel like I've got to walk you back a little ways. We've got to take a look at the early access page on Steam because there's a lot of information on there that's going to be really important in terms of expectation setting. I really feel like we have to remember this is being developed and published by one person. The other thing I want to point out is what early access means. So Andy says that State Metropolis is an ambitious solo project that he began 3 years ago. The early access period will allow him to implement the final layers of the simulation, balance existing features, all with the help of the community. So this early access period is supposed to last approximately 18 months. And there are many things that are missing that will be in the full version of the game, such as rail transportation, subways, tunnels, informal housing or slums, pedestrian walkways, bike lanes, service and utility buildings like universities, landfills, ports, airports, and expanded modding support. So you should know right off the bat that there are really critical components of this game that are missing. But some stuff is going to be there day one. The game will be highly playable. The core mechanics will be in place. The UI will be fully implemented. Procedurally generated buildings for residential, commercial, industrial, service, and utility buildings will be there. Grid list planning will be there. That plot tool that we saw will be there. The road tools will be in place, and the core simulation and the foundational elements for the budget, the economy, and traffic are all going to be there. There's also going to be 35 different road styles that are completely flexible, which is exciting to see, and it'll be 25% cheaper. But if you are buying this, don't expect a full game day one. He says that the suggestions and opinions from the community are invaluable for him and will directly influence the development process throughout early access and beyond the 1.0 release. Now, I'm glad to hear that there's a beyond the 1.0 release on the horizon. That was a criticism I saw on Reddit of some of the other entries in this city-state series of games, that they were abandoned. I don't necessarily think they were abandoned. And I want to believe that Andy's been working his way towards State Metropolis. But I gotta tell you, from everything that I can see, this game has all the potential to be really special. There's a lot that we don't know, but I don't think it's unreasonable to get excited about the future of this game. I plan on following it every step of the way. And let me know in the comments below if you want me to cover the other games. I do own City-State 2. I've never played City-State 1, but I saw that it's on sale for $1.50 right now, so I'm probably gonna pick it up. But with all of that said, I think that we're gonna leave it here, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. Can't wait to see where this goes. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.